What is freedom? That's a great question, and one that I'm really excited to talk about, because I think if you ask people what is freedom,
It's the ability to choose your own path in life.
Freedom is having enough to eat and a roof over your head.
It's about expressing yourself without fear.
many people are going to say different things, from I want to do what I want to do, when I want to do it, how I want to do it, without any interference from anyone.
Freedom means doing what I want to do
when I want to do it.
Ain't nobody gonna tell me what to do.
That's generally what you're going to hear. But I'm excited about this video because most people would like to be free. So when we look at the word freedom, freedom, the first thing I would say straight away is, when you look at that word, it's like saying, if we were to say another word, free. You've heard of a movie, yeah? Free, or in fact, yeah, free will. That's another word. Or free willy. They're two words. So when you look at this, you're seeing freedom and free will. In Wusabat, if you're saying free will, if will is the person's name, or that's why I said Willie, yeah? For example, if that was a person's name, Willie or William, free will, you will be saying free that person called Will or William or Willie. But when we say free will, without it being a person's name, for example, if I just take that back off, that now gives a completely different connotation, because people remember free will as being, I have the will to be free to do what I want, when I want, how I want. But we know in Wusabat, free will, as is explained by the Bible and the Quran and religious books, is not actually free. God's prepared two places, a heaven and a hell. Yeah. And then he knows who's going to go where, right?
Yeah.
So then there won't be a need for the test.
No.
Because if he knows what's in your heart and he knows everything, then he already know that you're going to go to heaven and someone else is going to go to hell, or vice versa.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense for him to
So the issue with this is the idea of predestination.
Right.
Just because God knows where you're going to end up doesn't mean that you're forced to go there. You go there.
That's why I made the point about it. How am I going to determine how or where I'm going by myself then?
Through free will.
Right. Yeah. But then you're saying, if I choose not to do what God wants me to do through the Quran, I'm going to go to hell. So that means I don't have free will then, because I can't choose to do what I want. Because when I choose to do something that God or Allah doesn't want, I'm going to hell. So I don't have free will. So I have to do what he wants me to do.
So you have free will insofar that you have the will to disobey God or obey God. But in terms of the outcome of that, you have to obey God in order to go to heaven. And if you disobey God...
But that's what I'm saying. You just said the same thing I've just said. But meaning that you can't choose not to disobey God then. Because if you choose to disobey God, you're going to hell.
So I think this is a semantic thing. When I say free will, it means that I have the will to stand up and like burn this place. I have the will to do that.
Yeah.
But if I do that and affect, livelihoods,
what do you understand by the word free then? Because I'm getting confused. You're saying
free will means I have the will to do.
So I'm free to do it.
I have the free. So I have the will to disobey God, but if I do it, I will be punished for it.
Don't you see how that doesn't make sense? If I have the free will to do it, he's told me I can do it.
Yeah.
So then, why do I get punished if I do what he says I can?
Because you know what's right and wrong.
But so does he.
Sorry?
So does he, Allah, God. He knows that as well.
So it all depends. Like, you have to know what the rules are. The rules are, we Muslims believe this is a test. And within this test, you have the free will to disobey God. I know it seems that, I think you think that because we don't have the free will to disobey God without punishment, it's not truly free will.
It isn't.
But
because then I can't choose.
No, but so you can choose.
So I can only choose good then. I can only choose to do what he wants me to do.
So you should choose only to do good.
You see, we're just saying the same thing. You're saying I should, but then he's saying I can choose the other side. and if I choose the other side,
Yeah.
I'm gonna get punished.
So
And go
free
to hell.
will does not mean no consequences. Those two are
So
not
it's not free
sequitous.
then, because consequence.
No, but
doesn't
we do
mean
believe
free.
free will means okay. So my definition of free will is that I have the will to do good and bad, and that's it. I don't really the consequences.
But
aren't
wouldn't it be
factored into
easier for
But
you
what's your
not to have that?
definition of free will, though?
Free is free. Like it's like me saying, yeah, you can have this iPhone for free, but then I'm saying, well, it's not really free because if you don't use it the way I want you to use it, I want it back. So is it free or is it not free?
That's the thing. A free iPhone, that means an iPhone with
Free.
no
All right.
cost.
Let's say this is will. I'm saying here, well, it's free will. It's yours. Do what you want.
Free will.
Yeah,
As
that's
in, like,
your will to do what you want.
it's okay. So this is an iPhone. You can do as you like.
No, let's forget the iPhone. I just
Okay,
use
yeah,
that as
it's
a
an analogy.
because
Yeah,
you asked
yeah.
me what do I see
'Cause I'm
means
saying-
free. Like,
yeah.
Free is free. I can't say this is yours. Take it. It's
Yeah.
yours to use.
All I'm saying is this:
Yeah.
that we believe free will does not mean no consequences. That's all we're
So,
saying.
and I'm saying because there are consequences, it's not free. Because there is a consequence. You can't do what you like because if you don't do what the deity, the God, the Allah, the Yahweh, whatever deity is saying you have free will, if you don't do what they like or what they would like you to do, then you get punished and you may be punished to hell, etc. So you're not actually able to do what you want in terms of having free will. Before we get into the breakdown of Wu Sabat, we're actually going to help you through this video to know how to become free. Yeah, because this is something that if you ask 100 people, would you like to be free? Would you like to have freedom? They will undoubtedly say yes. So this is a very exciting video for me because it's a challenge. It's one of those things that people want to know about. And we're going to help you become free or to fully understand what it means to be free. Before we go into the Wu Sabat breakdown of being free, let's have a look at what Google perhaps might say. So if we ask Google, so what Google says, I mean, this is using the AI within Google anyway, so it is a type of a chat GPT, right? So it says, freedom is the power or right to act, speak, or think as one wants without unnecessary restrictions, limitations, or coercion, right? So it's basically saying freedom is the power or the right. Now, a right is something given. Okay, so we say, I know my rights, or a privilege. So the power or right to act, speak, or think as one wants without unnecessary restrictions, limitations, no limits, or coercion, no one else being able to influence you. It goes on to say, it can be understood as the ability to make choices. That's a very important word to remember. We're going to go into it. Choices, and act on them based on one's own desires and rational decisions with different contexts, highlighting aspects like political liberties, the capacity for autonomous thought, right? Autonomous thought, the ability to think by yourself, and action, or simply the absence of physical restraint. Okay, so when we start to go delve in and go deeper into the word freedom, you will see that there are different types of freedom: political and civil, personal and individual, Metaphysical, that's a very interesting one. So let's have a look. So political and civil is the right to act and speak as one wishes without government control, including rights like freedom of speech, okay, religion and assembly. However, when you say freedom of speech, there are certain things you cannot say. We're living in a world now where you're dealing with a lot of censorship. You know, even YouTube and certain social media, they will flag you if you say something that they deem inappropriate. So even though we talk about freedom of speech today, that is becoming something that is dwindling, because you can't just say what you like when you like because of censorship. All right, so that's dealing with political and civil. Now let's go into personal and individual. So the sense of being able to make personal choices and pursue one's own goals without being unduly limited or frustrated by others. All right, so it's saying you should be able to make personal choices and pursue your own goals without being unduly limited or frustrated by others. Who are the others? We're going to look into this. Metaphysical. The metaphysical relates to the philosophical concept of free will. So they're saying it's a concept of free will, as we touched on. The philosophical concept of free will, which pertains to whether one's choices, the word again, choices is coming up, whether one's choices are truly one's own or are determined by prior causes. This is different from freedom of action, which is the ability to act on those choices without external compulsion. Right, so that's what Google is saying when we type what is freedom. All right, so let's get into the Wu Sabat now, because Wu Sabat is the barometer for you to use in terms of when you really want to know truth and actual facts. And we say to you all the time, do not believe us. Go and do your own research. All right, confirm things for yourself. That's the difference from believing something or believing someone than to know for yourself. Because when you take on what somebody else is saying to you without confirmation or you verifying it, you become a believer. And this is what religion does. Most of the time, the word you hear the most in religion is believe, yeah? Believe, you've got to believe or have belief, the belief in something or someone. And as Wu Sabat clearly points out, because belief is based on individual opinion, it's very subjective. It can be anything. And you can see clearly in Wu Sabat, we show you the word lie is in the middle of those words. So anybody can tell you anything which could be a lie and you just believe it. Pie in the sky doctrine, okay? Without you being able to verify and prove it. But in Wu Sabat, we debunk this. Now, when you said freedom, the reason I gave you this example first is because if we looked at this word, who is dumb? And what does the word dumb mean? Right? The word dumb, again, remember words can be spelled in different ways, but phonetically, how they sound is what matters, because the vibration and the frequency is the same. When you're temporarily unable or willingly to speak, unwilling to speak. Again, I pulled it up. And when you say, what is the meaning of a dumb person? It says, a dumb person can refer to someone lacking the intelligence They say stupid or foolish, or in an older or offensive sense, someone who's unable to speak. The meaning is most often used informally to describe someone that's unintelligent. But it can also be a derogatory term for someone who is foolish or ignorant. Historically, it was a term for people who were mute, which is now considered offensive when applied to humans, okay? But the gist of the breakdown of that word is to be unintelligent. So, if you think you are free, you are dumb. When you flip it backwards, just like the word well, I'll spell it like this on purpose. The word welfare, because when we start going into how you can be free and what freedom really means, we're going to see that words, tones, vibrations, and frequency have an impact. Just like this word, you can turn it the other way around too, and you get farewell. So even though we say welfare, when you don't have welfare, when you're not well, you're not being looked after anymore by the state, it's bye-bye to that right that you may consider you have. Okay, so if you think you're free, you are dumb, because you can't, going back to the definitions that most people will give when you ask them, what is freedom? And they say, being able to do what I want, when I want, how I want, without anyone interfering with me. Now, if you think about that, could you just walk down the road and take things, harm people, steal things, abuse people, do anything you want? No, you can't. Because there are physical, mental, spiritual, financial consequences to the word freedom, or the different types of freedoms that you may have. We mentioned civil liberties before. Yeah, so you can't do what you want. And even if you say to yourself, well, I wouldn't do that, or I wouldn't want to do that, you know, something that would harm someone, you might think that way, but somebody else might not think that way. So again, thoughts and how you think play a major part in freedom. All right, so the more you start to peel the layers off and look into this word freedom, because everybody would like to be free, or you ask people, what is freedom to you? People are going to say things along the lines of financial freedom, right? Which is the ability to not worry or think about finances or money. So that's one type of freedom. There are subjective freedoms. And so that one is, some people say, most people, that's what they realize. It's like, okay, I want to do this. I can't do it because I don't have the finances or the money to do it. I want to do that. I can't do it because I don't have any money. So financial freedom is one of the hardest things to attain in the society and the world that we live in. We're going to teach you how to be able to do that. We're not saying you can't do this, but it's one of the hardest, because most people have an education, right? So there are three main things you need to achieve in terms of, you know, being successful. But even that word success is subjective, because for one person, success might mean to have all the money they want. So financial freedom will be to them, anything I want to buy, I can buy it. I don't have to think about money. You know, like some people just go into any shop No matter what shop it is, what area it is, it could be in Harrods, it could be in the most expensive shop. They just walk in there, whatever they like or want and see, they can buy. They can buy yachts, they can buy Lamborghinis, for fast cars, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Bugattis, you know, they can buy houses, anything they want. They don't even need to think if they have the money in their bank. So the financial freedom is literally being able to have the finances to buy and get anything you want anytime you want. People can buy islands. Some people are struggling to find rent to pay for, you know, their rented accommodation, but people can buy a whole island, you see. So financial freedom is one that's hard to attain, but education is number one. Like, everyone has an education of some sort, even if it's primary education, even if it's kindergarten or nursery education, everybody can achieve having education. We know education is edited diction, or you have to go by a curriculum that is governed by, you know, the institution, whether it's the nursery, primary school, secondary school, college, university. So it is dictated to some degree, to somewhat, right? So, but everyone has an education. Everyone can achieve education to some level, even if you're homeschooled and you haven't had to go to an institution to get education. So pretty much from the time you're born, everyone on the planet gets some type of education, okay? In Wusabat, we say knowledge, because knowledge is better than education, or to have diction that's been dictated. We'll come back to that. The second thing that everyone's able to achieve is a career in some way, shape or form. Again, that's working, you know, or doing something you have a passion for. But most people get an education so that they can get a qualification, so that they can get a job, all right? And we know a job is for what? So that you can get finances, so that you can get money. And most people will work their entire life and still not have financial freedom, okay? So education, go into whether it's primary, secondary, university, whatever degrees, whatever qualifications you get, that leads you to a career where you can go and maybe work for somebody or start your own business. And so having a career is something that most people, again, remember, everything I'm saying doesn't apply to everyone. Not everybody's going to have, you know, a career, but at least the majority will. I would say the high majority, the 90s in terms of percentages, going to have education of some sort, even if it's mouth to ear or it's been passed down where your parents, like I said, teach you at home, or family teach you at home. You get some sort of education. You get some sort of career where you're exchanging your skills, your experience, your education for money, right? But the last one, the third one, which is financial freedom, is where most people struggle to achieve that. You know, people can have a good career, work for many years until retirement, and still not achieve financial freedom. The question is why? Because if you think that having finances and money is going to make your life easier, and there are studies that show that rich people, or those that are wealthy, so to be rich and to be wealthy are two entirely different things. What do I mean by that? You can have money in the bank, so you can buy anything, but wealth is something that is built by having assets and generational wealth, for example, which is passed down from generations to generations to generation. Okay, but most people struggle with, so let me write those down. So we said, number one, when you're born, you get some type of education. In Wusabat, we like to say knowledge. Yeah, most people achieve that without a problem. Number two, you have some sort of career. yeah, where you get some money coming in from somewhere, or you've actually decided to become, say, I don't know, a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, a graphic designer, whatever it is, you also can achieve that. Number 3, this is where, when we're dealing with freedom, this one is the one that people struggle with, and this is why we're going to help you with Wusabat to achieve financial freedom. And your thoughts, and more importantly, mental attitude. Yeah, it's the attitude that will determine whether or not you have the capability, the mental capability, to achieve financial freedom. So this is the one that most people struggle or fail. Like I said, you can work till you're 60, 70 and go into retirement and not achieve financial freedom. In Wusabat, the 3, we will replace the education with knowledge, right? Because we know that the word knowledge begins with knowing, or how to know. Yeah, you need to know, not be programmed with edited diction. To know, you need to know. All right, and then number 2 for us is language. In fact, it should be the other way around. As we go into looking at language, because I'm speaking to you right now, I'm breaking down what is freedom, but I'm speaking a language that is not original to me. All right, so someone taught us English, and English is one of the most widely spoken languages across the globe, across the world. But somebody taught me English, so am I free because I'm actually using a language and words? Because when we're looking at language, words come from a structure, starting with the alphabet that you learn as a child, you know, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, etc., etc. You take those letters or the alphabet to form words, and those words, obviously, then you use those words to build a vocabulary, and the more words you've got, then you put them together to form sentences, and those sentences can become paragraphs. Paragraphs can become books that people author to instruct you and teach you on many, many subjects, right? Even financial literacy, which most people don't get taught in schools. Okay, how to manage money, how do you build wealth. And so the fact that I'm speaking a language that is foreign to me doesn't actually make me free, because to a certain degree, and I'm not just relating to myself, I'm relating to everyone who speaks English as their primary language. We, of course, in Wusabat have our own language. That's why I say it's very important. Okay? And then third, this is the one that we're talking about. When we say freedom, we obviously know that Dom is not a man or a person. It might be somebody called Dominic when you say freedom, because we don't know who Dom is. But language plays an important part, because when you look at a word, especially in English, you can see that it's composed of different parts. Some words, like I said here, you have welfare, farewell, free will. You can see 2 different words. Free means something different to what will means, as is the same when we're looking at freedom. Okay, so we have obviously been putting out a lot of content. OSM Vision, subscribe to OSM Vision if you haven't done so already. knowledge. We put out so much information, so much knowledge, and our knowledge will never run out. It's like an open tap, because we're taught by a being that has mastered all the knowledge on this planet and beyond, having 76 trillion years of knowledge, of which he's got to give us or share with us 24,000 years of that. And this is to help you achieve freedom, right? So that's why I said I'm excited about your question about what is freedom. The question, what is freedom, is a very passionate subject, because this is what Wu Sabat is all about. This is what Wu Sabat is teaching you. This is what Wu Sabat will give you when you put it into practice, when you apply the knowledge that we're being taught, okay? And of course, we have our own language, so we can tick a box there too. And our language, we have a course, an online course that anybody can log into in the world and learn and study, because the vibration and the tones and the frequency of our language is a healing language, right? So if you want to learn the language, you can do that. And so if we go to disruptivesolutionsforsuccess.net or ds4s.net, you can access and learn our language. This is key to freedom, okay? And what you have to do is just click on the academy. Before I do that, you see here that the principles of how to achieve freedom is language, knowledge, and then the last one is freedom. And we're going to help you achieve that. Through the academy is where you learn the language, and it's very accessible for anyone. There you go, Miss Batia online language course. So you can actually log in and learn in your own time, at your own pace, and it teaches you, tells you what you're going to learn, etc. We'll come back to that, because it's very important when we're talking about freedom and what does that mean to you. Okay, so in Wu Sabat, the language is key. So we're going to look at how the language helps you. We have a book called The Language of Time, and I'm going to read a little excerpt just to emphasize the importance of language. So it says in the introduction, you are regaining that knowledge by way of Parnatharu, the overseers, by way of myself, Parnabab Yananan. Now, Parnatharu, the overseers, have given you all a way of guidance, which is the way, Partarak. So we have a series of scrolls called the way, because the way to achieving success and to achieving freedom is a series of scrolls called Partarak, the way, which helps you to align your akal, mind. Remember, I said mental attitude is very necessary in achieving freedom. All right, let's keep going. Akal, mind, to the sound right reasoning. The akal, mind of today's world only reflects detriment, derelicts, debauched and perverted fakar-at thoughts. Yeah, so the thoughts have been perverted. Thou word evil has truly been made fair seeming. Okay, and I'm going to come back to why evil being made fair seeming is a part of the problem why you cannot achieve freedom. Evil has been truly made fair seeming, and the forms of entertainment is a reflection of that demented or diminished mentality, showing the lack of creativity, yeah, of disagreeable beings whose objective is to keep you from becoming divine, which you will return to as it is with natural nature. That is who you are. They know this and do everything they can to prevent you from returning to your natural nature, which would lead to rebirth, the Siam, divine you. You must return everything that is not naturally for and to you and give it back. Give everything back to them and reclaim your own, your true self. Your language, Nwapui, Nwapik. And we said Mispatia. I've just shown you how you can learn your language. So there is no excuse now. Your own land. So when we're talking about being autonomous and being able to do what you like, when you like, how you like, without anyone interfering, you would need to have land. Your own way of life, which is Wunawap or Wusabat. Your own masak, music. Your own hadab, culture. Your own dress, even the fabrics you wear. Because everything gives off a vibration, a color, a sound, or tone. All of this affects the tone that your khatat, body, naturally vibrates at, and does alter what is natural to you. Yeah, so no matter who you are, everything gives off a vibration, a color, a sound, and a tone. And because everything is vibrating, those tones and vibrations affect you. Yeah, and it affects your body because your body actually vibrates on a tone. Each race on the planet, especially the 3 root races, they have a particular vibration that a tone that their body vibrates on. You see, so for us as Nagaru, that will be A. So A also ties into the frequency that the planet, because the planet itself, the planet Earth, is also alive. It's also vibrating because everything is composed of atoms, and those atoms, when you go deep into them, they're actually dealing with vibrations. Yeah, they're actually not solid. Yeah, they're space. It's energy held together on a particular resonance or a particular frequency. All right, so your body naturally vibrates and does alter what is natural to you. So if your body vibrates on, say, a F, right, as opposed to the A as we do, and you are constantly exposing your body to another note, right, because you're dealing with resonance. If you're exposing your body to another note, let's say higher or more pitchy than the one that is natural to you, it will affect your khatat, body, down to the molecular level, right? That's what I'm saying about when you go down to the molecules and go down to how those are held together, you start to deal with energy. The very cells of your body can be altered, so you must return to your own to become the divine you again. And those who have not made this shift will be left behind. Those left behind and the mentally dead, right? Because again, I keep mentioning mental. The mentally dead, because everything is mental. The mentally dead will be food for the gods, in the very literal sense of these words. And when we say food for the gods, we have to go into which gods we're talking about, because the word God can apply to many different people, many different beings, many different situations. Although people in religion are going to claim, no, my God is this, but they don't actually know who that God is. And it's a variety of different extraterrestrial beings that are being referred to in the Bible, in the Quran, in most religious books. These extraterrestrials, as we said before, these disagreeable extraterrestrials or disagreeable beings are the one who are controlling the mentality or the mind, of the men too, the minds of people on the planet. So these beings that we're referring to as gods, they actually come to this planet for many reasons. For vacation, for some of them for recreation, some of them for food, because they do eat humans, some of these beings, just like humans do to animals, where they go hunting, they go and shoot, some people anyway, they go and shoot animals for fun, for recreation, and they take what they prey, they take them home and eat them, or put them in the freezers and refrigerate them. All right, that's another thing, the word pray. When we talk about gods and people praying, or they pray to become prey for these beings, because a prey is something that is captured, controlled, and we'll look at how they do this with utilizing a web. That's what a prey does. If you think about, study spiders, study how certain animals hunt for their prey. So you're being prey is, you're a sitting duck, or you're someone or something that somebody is preying on. So it's very important. Tones, vibrations, and frequency. The differences between prey and prey, it's only one letter. And these letters, when you start to study language, you will see that the vowels, A, E, I, O, and U, these are actually, originally was just the A, going back to the tone of the body. They've now been exaggerated to all these E, I, O, U. This is why sometimes it kind of doesn't matter when you look at a word, because pray, saying it that way, or pray, saying it that way, your body, the tone, the vibration is what it's picking up in terms of the resonance. So it doesn't really matter if you're spelling it like that or like that. Just like when I spelled dumb like this, spelling it like that, you still say dumb, dumb. You still hear the tone it's about the tone, the vibration, and the frequency. So some of these extraterrestrials, we put ETs for short, they look at humans as prey. And when you add the word for this planet, what we call planet anyway, you literally see, again, going back to what I said before, plan ET. So the extraterrestrials have an extraterrestrial plan for this, what we call planet. And we call it Earth. Yeah, the word Earth comes from the word Irith, or Ard, ancient words for the planet. That's where the word Earth originates from, this word here. All right? So when we say food for the gods, we're literally saying that in the literal sense of these words, the beings who have gained control of this Mishab planet and their offspring, because they have children. If you don't believe me, it tells you that in Genesis, that the sons of God, and if you're a son of God, then you are God, right? Like you're male, you have a male child, that's your son, and you're God, the child's God. So when we say God, we have to always keep in mind different beings, extraterrestrial beings, agreeable, disagreeable, or we say cherubim, seraphim, bad, good, etc., etc. So the beings that have taken control of this planet and their offsprings are preparing for a departure as well. Yet they have secured food for their journey. Theirs and those of you who choose not to love yourself and have not only sought to live in another's image other than your natural own, yet have given up what they no longer have and have lost long ago, their ba'a or soul. Okay? Soul, it is the emotional body, nashat, energy, because it comes back to energy. The word nashat is energy. And when we say energy and we say emotions, because there are different types of energy, and that energy affects you in many ways, which affect your emotions. Yeah? Your emotions govern your actions and your behavior. So that E is energy. So when we say emotions, we're literally saying energy in motion. And that can be a life or death situation, because your emotions will make you do things that can get you into trouble. Okay, so energy in motion, which will propel your ka'a, your spirit, to the next plane where they cannot go. All right, I'm gonna stop there, but that's from the Language of Time scroll. And when we're talking about the energy and the mental and the mind, I'm going to read you something from the sacred wisdom of Tahuti. Okay, why Tahuti? Because Tahuti is the most knowledgeable being on the planet in the past and reincarnated now, who knows so much information, incarnated or reincarnated today in the personage of Parnabab Yanun. When we say words, right, the words have a meaning. And so, anatone, Yanun, Parnabab Yanun, the master Yanun, the master teacher. And everyone recognizes Tahuti because he's referred to by many names, yeah? And the most popular one is Thoth, that people know, yeah? Okay, let's read a little excerpt, because when you look at yourself, going back to the word freedom, you're dealing with physical freedom, mental freedom, spiritual freedom, and of course we've been talking about financial freedom. They all relate, because you're inseparable from the others. So the 9 doctrines of Tahuti. In fact, maybe I should just give you a little. You can do some research on Tahuti, Thoth. Hermes is known by various names throughout ancient times. But he has 9 doctrines, okay? And these 9 doctrines are: 1, the doctrine of mental. That's why I keep emphasizing the mental, the doctrine of mental. The doctrine of correspondence. That's 2. 3, the doctrine of vibration, right? So because Tahuti is the wisest being on the planet in the past, present and future, he covers mainly 9 doctrines, which are these. Number 1, the doctrine of mental. Number 2, the doctrine of correspondence, how you correspond, how things correspond with each other. The doctrine of vibration. Everything vibrates. The frequencies and vibration affect you as a being, because it's based on whether you can hear it or not. The vibration exists as sound, tone, color, etc. Number 4, the doctrine of polarity. Polarity is very important, because when we're talking about thoughts and thinking and making decisions, you have really two states. So this is one state, and this is another state, and then you have the middle. So this could be a 0, let's say in computers, and 1. All right, so zeros and ones in binary. And then you have the middle stage or state where you choose between one or the other. So this could be, off, and this could be on. Like, a light switch. So if you move the light switch from this point to that point, it becomes, you get light, it turns on. You bring it back to here, which is neutral, yeah? Neutral, and you go that way, it goes off. So you can switch on and off. So when you're making a decision, you can either say no, or you can say yes, right? Trying to keep it as simple as possible, but you can look at many things in the world. Is either day or night. Are you sad or are you happy? Is it black or is it white? But there's always the middle part where you say it's neutral before you make a decision. Even if we're dealing with will, is it your will to do or not to do? Okay, so that's dealing with the doctrine of polarity, because there's a pole and you pole in one direction or the other. Okay, so you can go from hot, cold, etc. You get the picture. The other remaining doctrines are the doctrine of rhythm. Why rhythm? Again, everything's oscillating, everything is moving, everything is vibrating. Yeah, oscillation, up and down. Yeah, again, up, down. Yeah, so a wave that is moving like this is going to be quite slow, a sine wave. And it can be a lot faster, so, or it can be just smooth as a straight line, which eventually becomes a circle. All right, so the doctrine of polarity, the doctrine of rhythm, where everything is moving and vibrating, molecules are moving, and when you heat food, for example, using microwaves, what you're doing is the laser within the microwave is providing heat that makes the molecules jump or gyrate or vibrate or creates friction, and that friction generates heat to warm up the food. All right. The doctrine of cause and effect. So all of these doctrines are the 9 doctrines of Tahuti. Cause and effect. For one action, there is an equal what? Reaction. Yeah. So for every action, there is a reaction. So the doctrine of cause and effect. Throw something up, it's going to come down. Depending on where you are, obviously, when you're dealing with gravity here, there are different rules and different laws in different environments. So bear that in mind, because when you start to look at the multiverse and looking at the omniverse, there are different rules, even within the spiritual realm, because there are different realms, different rules, different regulations that govern that realm. The doctrine, so that was number 6. The doctrine of gender, that's number 7. The doctrine, so gender, obviously, physical beings, people, we tend to look at gender based on our sexual organs, but gender can be related to many different things, beings, and situations. All right, so it's not just based on sexual organs. So we have to understand gender, because there are genders outside the gender of, in human terms, we talk about the XX chromosomes being female, yeah, and then we talk about the XY being male, because remember that the Y is a defective X, yeah, so we say female and we say male so these will be women and this are men, right? And as I said, it was the X, this was originally an X, which basically got maimed to produce the Y. Hence why the female is first, And within the word female, you see male. Within the word woman, you see man. Within the word lady, you see the word lad. So the man is always within the woman. But anyway, not to digress too much, but that's the doctrine of gender. The point I was actually trying to make is that there are other types of genders where you have X, Y, X, or you have Y, X, Y. So this starts to go into hermaphrodites and hermaphrodites, okay? And then you have other types of beings on the planet that are not from here and they're actually genderless. And when you start to deal with energy and vibration and frequencies, when you're not in the human skin suit, then you're no longer dealing with gender in the sense of physical organs to do with having a vagina or having a penis. So it's important to know when we're talking about the doctrine of gender that it's not limited to our human views of gender. 8, the doctrine of growth. Because everything grows. To people call things in the beginning as they say creation. Okay? To create means to grow, because you're taking something and growing it or expanding it. So the doctrine of growth, how things come about from a minute existence to growing. And then finally, the 9 is the doctrine of breathing. Breathing, again, deals with the two states, pulsating, in, out. Yeah, so when you look at, we say, as above, yeah, as above, so below. Yeah, so you're dealing with breathing. So if you look at that, this is rising upwards and this is pushing or pulling downwards. And when you look at time and look at the hourglass, this is representative of the hourglass, yeah? Because you're dealing with what we call the smack circle, which is space, matter, and time. These work in conjunction together. Yeah, so you hear about people saying time, matter, and space. So you know this, I'm trying to draw this as best as I can. The hourglass, where you have sand in there and then it trickles down to there, representative of our elected. And these two become, if this moved upwards or that came down, you will see that it forms the 6-pointed star, or so it may look, but they're actually different, as above, so below. So when we're talking about breathing, you're talking about inhaling, exhaling. You're breathing in oxygen, you're giving out carbon dioxide. Everything goes from, as I was saying, from hot to cold, yes or no. So breathing, pulsation, keeps you alive. So those are the 3 doctrines. These 9 doctrines will be discussed in this scroll, The Sacred Wisdom of Tahuti, which you can get hold of. All the books I mentioned you can get hold of. But let's go back to freedom. What is freedom? So quickly, to reiterate why those doctrines are so important, it's because when we start to look at freedom, okay, and we look at let me just find it again, give me 1 second. Okay, here we go. Right. Think about freedom and the fact that the doctrine of mental is all to do with how you think and how your mind works and how you make decisions and are you free mentally. The doctrine of correspondence is who do you correspond with? Like you exchange energy, you gain energy, you exchange energy. So there's a back and forth. Correspondence is like I communicate and you respond or respond back to me. So when we're talking about praying, or you're trying to communicate with some being, that's correspondence. You've got to receive back information. The doctrine of vibration, everyone and everything vibrates. And depending on the vibration, it could be a harmful vibration, or it could be, a good or positive vibration. Polarity, everyone deals with polarity. This is how you decide things. And we have a scroll, a part of that, called a decision. When I say to you, we're going to give you the answers and the solution for you to be free or to gain freedom, all these scrolls matter. We have a book called The Mind, okay? The mind deals with your mental, okay? So we have in Wusabat all the information for you to put into practice once you absorb that information. So yeah, we're dealing with the doctrine of rhythm. Rhythm is everything moves, everything vibrates, but depending on how you're moving can have an effect. This is why music is also so important, because music is what? Music is rhythm, tones, vibration, frequencies, and that can affect you when you listen to good music, and some music is harmful to you. The doctrine of cause and effect. Your decisions will affect how you're free or you're not free, because you make the wrong decisions, you can end up in a situation where you don't have any freedom, as in a jail or whatever. Or, you may be put there wrongfully, but you can still end up there. The doctrine of gender. Gender is important because you interact with different beings, like male and female interactions. When we start to look at freedom, some people may be in a relationship, for example, that is not giving them freedom, and they may need to change that relationship. So the doctrine of gender is important. The doctrine of growth. How do things grow? You don't remain the same, whether you like it or not. In religion, they talk about creation. Creation is to grow. So they had to take something that was already available or existing to grow. And even in your life, how do you grow? Are you growing in success? Are you growing financially? Successfully in the way you determine or define success? Are you happy? Are you enjoying your life? Are you miserable? Are you depressed? All of these things are to do with growth. And then breathing, of course, is very important, because breathing is what keeps you alive. One of the best definitions for life is the amount of breaths you have. Because when you stop breathing, then you're no longer able to transform that energy from, oxygen, which is getting burnt to give off carbon dioxide that keeps you alive. So those 9 doctrines of Tahuti are very important. So let's get back to the freedom. You have physical freedom, where can you move and go anywhere or do anything with your body? Not if you're restricted and confined to a certain place. You have mental freedom. We've spoken about mental freedom quite a bit. And how you think. Are you able to process and think and make the right decisions? Then you have spiritual freedom, because ultimately, when you leave here, because we're trapped, you're trapped here in the physical body, and it's only at death that people say, oh, at least he's free now. He or she has gone to heaven or to hell. If you've gone to hell, are you free spiritually? If you're trapped within this environment, in the 3D environment, are you free spiritually? So when we're talking about freedom, we have to look at the different types of freedom. Physical freedom, mental freedom, spiritual freedom, financial freedom. A lot of people put emphasis on the financial freedom. However, all the other parts, you could be free financially, have a lot of money, but you're still not free mentally. You're worried. So when we look at physical freedom, what's keeping you trapped? Because you have voluntary actions and you have involuntary actions. What do I mean by that? There are things that you do whether you like it or not, like breathing in and out, like blinking your eyes, like the blood being pumped with your heart, like electrical signals that are being sent and messages that are being sent through your nervous system to your brain. So there are many things that you do that you have no control of. Those are involuntary actions. But the voluntary ones are the ones you volunteer. That's what you can hear the word, to do. All right? So you can move your hand because you choose to move your hand. Turn your neck. There are things you have control over, but there are other things you don't. So some people are physically not able to move or do the things they want to do through maybe the genetics, or they have, you know, they were born with some kind of genetic defect, you see. But we also have to be politically correct, because when we say disabled, we're literally saying you're unable to do something. So when we're talking about freedom, I mentioned earlier on about the word choice. Okay, if you ask people, are choices freedom? Because you might think, oh, well, I choose to go where I want, I choose to do what I want, I choose to do this. Going back to this, polarity, the doctrine of polarity. Are choices free? No, you're not free if you're choosing, because you have to think, the person that gives you the choices, yeah, let's say the choices are A, B, C, and D. The person that gives you the choices has already decided for you. So you think you're free because, let's say these were shoes, different pairs of shoes or different suits or different whatever it is, that's already in the store, has already come from the creative mind or somebody else who decided the materials to use, whether it's leather or, you know, whatever material that shoe is made from. And they might have, this might be a blue, green, yellow, or whatever color. They've chosen the colors, they've chosen the design of the shoe, they've actually chosen the materials to build that shoe and to create that shoe. And they've even given you you know, you can only get it in 4 colors, let's say, right? So when you walk into the shop, these could be dresses for the women or handbags. Doesn't really matter what it is. Someone has used their mind, their creativity to give you these choices. So you come along, you go, shall I get the blue ones or shall I get the green ones? No, I like the purple ones or whatever. So you make all of this, what you're calling, you're thinking, you're making a decision, and then you choose one of them. Let's say you go for C, yeah, and you like that one. You think you've made a choice. I guess you could say you had the freedom to choose, but you didn't choose because somebody chose for you by putting the choices in front of you. And when you start to examine this in life, you know, why do you wake up when you wake up? Why do you use the toothpaste that you use? Or why do you wear the clothes that you wear? Where are you going? How are you getting there? You know, are you going by your own transportation or using public transport? And on your way, something as simple as traffic lights can change your entire life. But do you have control over the traffic lights? Yeah? What is it? Red, amber, or yellow, and green? Yeah? What does red says what? Red is stop. And for those of you who are going for your driving lessons or driving tests in the UK, if I say what does amber stand for, don't say get ready to go, because you will fail your test. It still means stop. And lastly, green is go. Yeah? So why do I say that these 3 colors or something as simple as a traffic light can affect your life? because somebody put that idea of a traffic light and put it somewhere, and even though you're on your journey in time to go somewhere, you get to a light and it says stop. They're now in control of your movement for that moment. Even if that traffic light is only keeping you there for 1 minute, 60 seconds, you stop, don't you? Now, had you arrived, say you were on your way somewhere, destination, mode of travel, car, bus, whatever. If you get here and the traffic light says stop, imagine there may have been an accident here. By the traffic light stopping you here for a few minutes, you avoid that accident. So who's in control of that? It could be the other way around. By delaying you, you may miss your flight if you had to get there on time. So when we're looking at choices, you have to really think, are you making the choice or has somebody else already made the choice for you? So freedom is a very interesting subject, and it comes with consequences and decisions. Like, you have to master your mind, the world that you live in. And in Wu Sabat, we give you that freedom, because if the choices were religion, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, they restrict you, because each one of those religions is based on a book, on a deity, and people that belong to that club that dictate and tell you what you can do and what you can't do. And if you don't do and follow a particular way, then you're going to go into hell, go into hell or go into heaven. But is that freedom? Because if you're going to go to hell, that's not freedom. You see, so your question of what is freedom? Freedom is the ability for you to think and master your mind. The Doctrine of Mental by Tahuti, Parnabab Yanun, breaking the spell that you're caught up in the Matrix. If you watch the movie The Matrix, they tell you that you're living in an illusion or in a world that literally governs how you think, behave, and what you can ultimately do. And with Wu Sabat, in breaking the spell, taking control of your thoughts, you can become free. And this subject is particularly of one that I have a passion for, because freedom for Dr. York is the ultimate reality that we need to achieve. Because being confined physically doesn't mean he's confined mentally, spiritually, you see, but you have a system, right? When you look at, again, remember what I was saying about words. You see the word govern. Govern meant. The word meant relates to the mentality or the mind. You know, the government has a lot to say or do in terms of your life, whether it's the budgets, how much money is allocated to different things, what you can do, can you move freely. If you are incarcerated, whether it's wrongfully, then you can't move. You're physically restrained. You see, so yeah, freedom for Dr. York. We need to make sure that those that have wrongfully incarcerated him need to know there are consequences to actions, because when you're dealing with that, the doctrine of cause and effect, it means there will be an effect to the actions. And for those of us who are being taught the knowledge and our language to free ourselves by the way we think, we don't think like everyone else does. And coming together and working together once you're free, because if you go back to the story in Genesis of the Tower of Babel, most people think it was about the tower, but it was really about the language. It was about who are you communicating with and corresponding with, who is sending the thoughts that you're thinking. And today, most people are being influenced by messages, media, social media, you know, the trends, the celebrities. But ultimately, when you look at the web is controlled by beings that are controlling the planet, and you are just being prey that is getting caught up, and you're not making choices, you're being programmed. And so if you want freedom, real freedom, then we have to look at what that really is, and not in the sense that they're being cynical or taking what we say in England, the mick. You know, if you think you're free, you are dumb. If you don't understand or really know what freedom is. So I'm going to read from this part of that called fret, chafe, or worry. And I'm only going to read a few excerpts. It says, okay, I'll go from page 14, verse 154. Those who think they look good, that are pretty, that they are handsome, they live by their physical looks. So when I'm saying about the mental freedom, this is tying into the physical looks, not their inner mokwan, their inner being. This relates to your spiritual being and to whether you have a soul or not. Okay. 155. Their dawi, evil, makes them think they are better and stronger and more powerful than others. 156. They think the outside tapal world welcomes them because of how they look physically. What fools they are. Yet don't fret. 157. They live by slander and accusations against others. 158. These are the ones who blaspheme. Wu Nuwap, Wu Sabat, Nuwapu, cultural way of life, because of what they can't overstand about it. 159. They are like brute beasts when they speak about others. 160. They try to point out others to hide themselves and all that is wrong with them. Don't fret. 161. They will be paid back with harm for the harm they do to others, for the things they say about others. Don't fret. 162. Their idea of pleasure is to carouse and show off in the public. Don't fret. 163. With their ibabat hearts and akalat, their minds, full of lust, sex, adultery, they never stop their jawidnus, wickedness, and dawi, evil, in the name of just having fun or a good time. Don't fret. 164. They seduce the unstable as friends who follow them onto their own dawi, evil. don't fret. They are experts in greed, yet they will be fooled by the very life they wish to live. Don't fret. 165. They have or wish to live the best way of life, Wusabat, for them. Right? So they want to leave Wusabat, leave their cultural way of life, only to wander to the outside Tapal world as those who left before them, who found out that the outside world was all fake. 167. Parties don't last forever. Drunkenness wears off. Yet your reputation follows you for life. Don't fret. 168. And now they live in the devil's Tapal world, and he doesn't accept them after he used them against their own Salau race. 169. Now they suffer as they pretend to be happy. Don't fret. 170. Their lives are like springs without any meye water, all dried up. 171. Not even mist. Don't fret. 172. Now their rafamat mouths are empty. 173. Their boastful words and appealing lies are like a torch without fire, fire without heat. 174. No one listens to their lies. Don't fret. 175. They're used to entice people with their stories about Patameye Tamaray, Egypt of the West. 176. Now the truth is out and people look at them for what they are. 177. Betrayers of their own Salau race. For the small change money they no longer receive. 178. Being used by the Kakasu, Canaanite, who did make money off of their lies. What fools these mortals be, yet don't fret. 179. They can't escape from their lies and errors. Don't fret. 180. How sad, yet we love them, for they are of us. 181. Many say I'm free to live my own life outside of Wusabat, Nuapu, cultural way of life. 182. Yet as they were promised by those who used them freedom, while they now themselves are slaves of depravity. 183. For anyone under another's laws and rules by other than their own Salau race is a slave and not free at all. Don't fret. 184. Each is a slave to whatever and whoever masters them. 185. If you are a Nagar, Negroid, Shakhas person of Afafreye Ka'a, Africa, ruled by laws, rules, cultures of another race, you are not free at all. Fret that you should fret. Yeah? So basically, if you're ruled by laws, rules, a culture of another race, you are not free at all. Fret that you should fret. 186. Can they be born without a birth certificate issued by Canaanite? No. Fret. 187. Can they live without going to Canaanite schools, reading and learning from Canaan books and approved by them to graduate? No. Fret. 188. Can you work without Canaanites taking some of your hard-earned money as tax, stealing from you legally? No. Fret. 189. Can you get a job without a social security number issued by Canaanites? No. Fret. 190. Can you save money without letting Canaanites know how much you have, or put in banks, or buy things, or use credit cards? No. Fret. 191. Can you drive a car, bus, truck, boat, plane without getting approved by the Kaanu Canaanite under whom you live? No, fret. 192. Can you get married and or divorced without going before the Kaanu Canaanite system? No, fret. 193. Can you travel the world without approval by a passport issued to you by Kaanu Canaanites? Visas? No, fret. 194. Can he come in your home and arrest whomever make up lies if he wants, and even beat or kill your relatives if he wants? And can you stop him? No, fret. 195. Can a Kaanu Canaanite and others who work with him judge and put one of your relatives to death or life in prison on made up lies, and you do nothing about it? Yes, fret. 196. Are you really free? No, fret. Are you still a slave? Yes, fret. 198. Wu Nawak, Wu Sabat. Nawapu culture, way of life, can free you of your fret. So that's what it means to be free and to get freedom. The answer for freedom and Sa. That's spelt intentionally for freedom is the answer for freedom is Wu Sabat.